So if the XC is the ultimate form of the Staccato P, is the Staccato P4.5 the ultimate form of the Staccato P4? Well, we'll find out today. I'll run the gun side by side with the P4 and the XC and the original P. I'll shoot it side by side with the Platypus. I'll shoot a sample stage with the P4 and the P4.5 looking for performance differences. We'll go over the updates to the HD P4 series of the gun and more. Alright, so if you follow the channel, you'll know that I immediately after SHOT Show got excited about the Staccato HD P4, immediately bought one of the first ones available, and if you buy an early gun, sometimes you get ones with teething issues, and that was the case with my HD P4. Notably, the backup iron sight at the rear tried to yeet itself from the slide. The chatter marks on kind of the contours at the top of the slide were kind of a little off-putting. The safeties were a little bit wide and sort of beat up the web of your hand. And Staccato, to their credit, took care of most of that stuff for me, but now the Staccato HD P4.5, which is a sight block version of the HD P4, is now available. And I did a video on carrying the Staccato HD P4. I still carry that gun. I think it's actually a pretty brilliant carry gun. It's a little bit bigger than a Glock 19, but insanely capable. So if you want more information on the HD series, you can check out the two videos I've already done on the Staccato HD P4. So I guess a good place to start with the pistol is how the gun has changed from the early generation HD series pistols to the ones we have currently. The rear sight roll pin situation is sorted out now. This rear sight is absolutely fine, and looking at the roll pin, it's absolutely centered in the slide. It hasn't gone anywhere. I don't know the round count on this gun. It's close to 4 figures, if it's not at least 4 figures. So the rear sight is squared away. The safeties are much thinner with the blending that they do to the frame. There is not just kind of that little thickness that was kind of punching in the web of the hand. They've sorted that out, so the gun is absolutely comfortable to shoot now. The machining marks on kind of the curves of the slide at the top is still there. It's not as pronounced as it was on my HD P4, but it's very difficult to photograph, but when you see it in person, you can absolutely see like the little machine marks on the radius at the top of the slide. Now would be a good time, if you find value in this video, to remind you to subscribe. I'll be comparing this once the SIG Sauer P211 sight block comes out. I'll be comparing this to the SIG Sauer version of basically this gun, and that'll be a cool video you won't want to miss. And obviously the biggest change between this and the P4 is the longer dust cover with the sight block barrel. This is a sight block that is monolithically machined into the barrel. It's kind of like the Staccato XC, which has the compensator milled into the barrel, but it's got an island barrel, which actually, creates a cutout in the slide. They didn't make the island barrel, but it does have a monolithic device at the end of the barrel. A quick refresher on the HD series of Staccatos. I've already done 2 videos on these. If you want all the details, check those out. But this is a Series 80 gun, meaning that there is a firing pin block lifter. If you look at the back of the slide right there, you can see the firing pin block. The grip texture is very good because the slide is optimized for an RMR thickness optic. The entire gun got fatter than a traditional 2011 slide. However, the grip is a little bit thinner. The grip is fatter at the top where the frame kind of meets up with it than it is at the bottom. Some people have issues with that. I don't. The grip texture is excellent. However, it's kind of too much for carry because it will rub against your bare stomach if you are carrying the gun in an appendix holster. There's a beautiful thumb ledge that when you're shooting the gun, your thumb falls into quite naturally. Feels really good to shoot there. And the trigger on the gun is actually better than the one that's on my P4, just barely, maybe a ½ pound better, but it's you can't really feel the firing pin block on this one when you go slow. Because of the trim package that I've got here, it actually came with the mag well attached and 3 of the MechGar 18 round mags. The MechGar mags, as we'll go over in a bit, I am really a big fan of because they might be the very best mags for competition at this point. I'll tell you more about that in a minute. Now, Staccato started doing the whole trim levels thing a couple years ago where there are 3 different packages you can get. This is the middle package with the preferred package, meaning that it comes with 3 magazines, a Trijicon front sight for the irons, and a magwell. Considering that the MechGar Glock mags are selling for less than $30 now, I've bought some for less than $25 if you shop around. You can consider that value. The front sight is worth, I don't know, better part of $100, I guess, and the magwell they're selling for about 80 bucks. The basic model of the gun only comes with 2 magazines, no magwell, and a black front sight, and that's about $200 less. I don't even know what they call it, super premium or something. The top end one comes with 4 magazines, and it comes with the X slide serration, so it's got window cuts into the slide. Personally, I think the package with the magazine well is probably the one that you need, or get the basic one and just put a mag well on it. It doesn't make sense to pay markup to Staccato for the magazines, in my opinion, but you do you, boo. Now let's talk about how the gun is positioned, because while Staccato's like, it's built for duty and all this kind of, well, they sell it to civilians, and civilians use it for stuff like competition, blinking, home defense. You could potentially carry it, although this is starting to get pretty big. It's about Glock 17 size gun, but you could do it if you wanted to. This gun actually starts to make sense as a competition gun because it is a little softer shooting than the HD P4 because of the sight block, but at the same time, it's got a longer barrel length. It's got the single action only trigger. It has full ambi control, so you can actually drop the slide on emergency reloads with this finger if you want to as a right-handed shooter, which is cool. But how does it stack up next to the Legacy 2011s? And this is where we're gonna get into where it differs from the HD P4 as well, because we're looking at the Staccato P versus the XC. If you just look at the slow motion of the Staccato P and the Staccato XC, what you'll notice is that when the XC slide closes, there's less turbulence, less kind of jumping up and down. As a result, the bullets, when you shoot real fast on the same target, stay closer together, and that's kind of desirable. If you look at the HD P4 and the P4 in recoil, you'll notice that there isn't a huge difference in how the slide moves. While there is less energy going into your wrist, this gun is less fatiguing to shoot than the P4. It's not a massive advantage over the P4. P is a good shooting gun. It's underrated in the age of a bazillion 2011s, but it's still a fantastic pistol. The MJD grip really elevates that as well. But that shoots great, and the XC, as we know, is also a beast. Let's do that. There's a lot less muzzle lift. It's a lot gentler as far as the energy making it back into the wrist. You don't have to lock your wrists out nearly as hard as you do with a non-compensated model. I guess that's kind of the point. But yeah, it's super nice. Let's try the Ps now. I like how the HDP kind of recoils. Like, I've been carrying this gun sort of more and more. It's pretty predictable. There's some stuff I didn't love about it initially, like specifically the safeties. They've addressed that on the new models where the safeties are more sculpted, but they've got the roll pin figured out. The sights don't come off anymore. It's like a Gen 1.5, I guess, and it seems nicer. But let's see how the shooting is kind of AB with the HD P4.5. It is muted, but it's not muted nearly as much as the XC mutes the recoil. The muzzle climb isn't a whole lot less. It's maybe just a little bit less. I'd put it like maybe 10% less. The energy that comes back on your wrist is lighter. You feel like you don't have to grip the gun as hard. But how much does that recoil difference actually matter? So we're gonna do some build drills at 7 and as far back as I can go without moving these targets, probably 20 or 25 yards, to see what that does. It's a 162. It's a 158. Splits are roughly the same. That's a Staccato P right there. That's the Staccato XC. Definitely comes back a little bit easier. That's what it looks like at 7 yards. 168 that go. Okay. Well, it's a much different recoil impulse, and I'll show you what I mean. The results were not quite the same as we saw with the P and the XC, which I shot previously. So that's what I got out of the P4. But you come and look at the P4.5, I gotta zoom out so you can see this little guy all the way down here. What happened was that I overdrove the gun shooting it back to back with the P4. That's the second shot. Everything else I kind of adjusted to and kept it the same, but I would say that the P4.5 doesn't quite stabilize the gun in the same way that the XC does against the P. Back at like 24-ish yards, do the same thing again. Start with Mr. P. All right, that's a 311 with accountable sights. With the P, that's a 280, so about 10% faster with the XC. Let's see what the HD series can do. P at 25 yards, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 5, 6, so those are actually touching. That's pretty good just outside the 0 zone on that IDPA target. Similarly, the XC's dropped 1. That was the second shot. It came back a little low. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but 10% faster for the same result. That's a 310, basically the same as the Staccato P. Will we get the same results from the P4.5? 321. Yeah, I didn't get a good grip on it, so the gun was moving around a little bit and I had to fight it back to the center. There's the P4. I threw one out on the high side, and there is the P4.5. This is 2 and 3 right there, and I had to fight it back to center because the gun wasn't seated very well in the hand. So it's gentler, but I don't think it's exploitable at speed. The good news is there's a stage next door to the bay that I'm in where I can actually shoot these in a competitive context and see if there's a time on the clock in like a dynamic situation. But that's just single target stuff. So I was filming on the bay at my gun club next to the bay where the sample stage was set up. So I ran the guns kind of back to back to see how it was. Now I am a master level shooter. I'm not saying that as a flex, but all that really should say to you is that I'm very consistent from run to run. So I'm able to repeat the results I get with one gun to the next. And as a result, you'll notice that the stage times between the two guns aren't wildly different. Until I got to the last position and I jerked a shot into hardcover with this gun, I made it up, and that was basically the time difference. 1661. But that wasn't the full story. If you actually look at the hits, I was just a little bit more accurate with the HD P4.5 with fewer Charlies as a result if you use hit factor math. And as a result, the HD P4.5, if you use Comstock scoring, which is basically points divided by time it took to get the points, the HDP 4.5 actually won the stage from a USPSA context. The experience isn't a whole lot different, but what I did notice is the shots were closer together on every target with the P4.5. 2 Alpha. The shots are much closer together with the P4.5. Alpha Charlie. Taking it back and just seeing how much, slow fire accuracy I could get out of this gun at 25 yards versus the P4, I did notice that I had a better central tendency with the hits on the P4.5 than I did on the P4. That's the P4 at 25 yards, held a decent, point of aim, throwing a couple left. This ammo is not zeroed in that gun, so it's impacting a little bit left. Had one flyer get all the way away from me on there. But the central tendency is stronger on the P4.5. I wonder if that is better barrel fit or if I just did a better job. That said, the accuracy out of my P4 when I bench rested them was okay. It wasn't as great. This gun's accuracy is better than the P4, and that could just be a sample size from that gun to this gun. But this gun was putting up better groups. As I mentioned, the gun is probably close to 1,000 rounds. Tried a little bit of defensive ammo with it, but mostly the ammo I shot with it was Buffalo Creek 115s. They are a supporter of the channel. If you want to check out Buffalo Creek, you can be helped there with this. Thanks to Buffalo Creek for helping us out. Now let's talk about comparing it to the OG Glock magazine 2011, the Platypus. And this is the updated version of the Platypus with their excellent prickle grip texture. And take a look at it. Now, notably, the difference is that the Staccato has a modular grip, meaning that you could potentially remove this grip and swap it out with a different one. This one, the grip is basically the frame. It is the firearm of the gun. Like what you get is what you get with the Platypus. It's an aluminum framed gun, which means it's a fair bit lighter than the Staccato P4. As optioned, as you see it here, this gun is going to run out closer to $2,000, so you're going to be paying a premium to go up to the Staccato. So initially, I was testing it with these Mechgar Glock magazines to make sure that, they get all 18 rounds. Platypus, fancy mag. That's pretty slick. And they got all 18 and 7 others because this setup for magazines is incredible and it is reloadable, meaning that with the slide forward, you can seat the magazine in the gun easily enough. Nobody's making 25 reloadable mags right now, and this is, so that's awesome. Shooting the guns in build drills at 7 yards, the Platypus honestly was better. It kept the shots closer together. The trigger is a little bit nicer, so I was able to run it a little bit faster. Backing it up to 25 yards, the HDP 4.5, which is heavier. The guns had roughly the same time running a build drill. But at the same time, the hits were better out of the Staccato. With the Platypus, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
definitely feel a little bit more stable with the heavy gun at distance.
So it really kind of depends what you want the gun for and what's going to make sense to you. Both are excellent. This one is going to be a little bit tighter fit than the Staccato, and you can do whatever you want with like the Cerakote colors on it. So it's still a really cool gun. If you're more utilitarian, just want a black gun, then the HD P4.5 is excellent, and it's a bit heavier, which I tend to prefer heavier gun. So the Staccato HD P4.5, I feel like with the updates that Staccato has made, the guns are better now than they were at launch. And the P4.5, I honestly like better than the P4, despite not being a massive difference in performance between the two. It's just a little bit easier to shoot, doesn't recoil quite as hard. Since it does have the short slide, it moves kind of athletically even with weak ammo. And you know, the way guns are set up, you want guns that have a wide operating window for performance, and this can, because of its light slide, it can cycle light ammo as well as the heavier ammo available. It is fully ambi, and it solves the problem for right-handed shooters doing emergency reloads. You can't really reach the mag release. The ambi slide stop you could do that with, which is pretty cool. It's a training issue. You got to learn how to do it. I still can't do it when I'm not thinking about it, which is a problem. But at the same time, that option is available. I do feel like Staccato is settling in. I actually like this gun better than my legacy Staccato P, which I liked better than my P4, but the P4.5 I think I like better than the Staccato P. I think the Staccato XC is still my favorite Staccato that there is. The XC is absolutely brilliant. It's a lot of fun to shoot if you haven't shot one. But the P4.5 I feel like is a better kind of do-it-all gun. It doesn't have the compensator, which is getting a lot of cool guy points, but at the same time, the sight block is sort of practical because all of the noise goes out the muzzle down range as opposed to up and all around you. So if you're shooting at indoor ranges predominantly with kind of the armor on each side and above you, shooting a compensated gun can be pretty loud. You want to double plug in that situation. This you don't have to double plug for at the indoor range, which is nice. Plus this little iron sight in front of the lens there does a pretty good job of keeping the soot off the glass when you're shooting. So it does a good job of keeping the optics clean, which I like about it. Now, as I mentioned, you're gonna wanna be subscribed to the channel because this is the SIG Sauer P211 GTO. This has got the compensator on here, but at some point this month, the sight block is supposed to come out, and I'll be comparing this gun to this gun, and that will be awesome. You won't wanna miss it. In the meantime, if you wanna check out my original videos on the Staccato HD P4, you can check those out here.